Another of the great gifts God has given me is my daughter, Angela. She was present for a talk that I gave on Father's Day, and I was thrilled, of course, and happy to see her there. Afterward, I asked her what she thought of the talk. And she said, "Oh, Dad, it was essentially the same talk you gave the last time I came to hear you speak." Karen tells me that frequently as well. Both of these women are very astute and very wise. Karen deserves an award for bearing the repetition over and over and over again. But I have to have a true confession with you this morning. It's true. Every talk I give is essentially the same thing. Because I might say it in a different way or try to make it more relevant to whatever we're going through in the human scene or in our personal lives. But the reality is this: we have mistakenly invested ourselves in an identity that is a figment of our imagination. In other words, there's the spiritual reality of who we are, and then there's that which we believe ourselves to be. And the law of mind action tells us you invest your belief in anything, in any thought, you're going to experience it in your life, whether it is true or whether it is solidly grounded in an understanding of the one presence and power of God, it's going to manifest. So all of my messages are just about let's be as conscious as we can in our efforts to release the bogus identity that we have accepted for ourselves, the figment of our imagination that is creating a world of horror and terror and fright and fear, and start to remember who we are and invest our beliefs solely in that. Withdraw our incessant preoccupation with everything that's going on out here and instead go in here. Because remember, this whole thing is occurring by virtue of projection. As within, so without. That being said, I'd like to say to Angela and Karen, here it is again. I wouldn't have been able to say that 10 years ago, and I'd been too proud. I work on every original message. But they're all essentially the same thing, and it's the essence of the unity message. So we just celebrated the 4th of July, the founding of this great country in which we live. It's very sensitive this year, is it not? I mean, it's just sensitive. It's delicate. I know some people are extremely burdened by the divisiveness that we are experiencing in our country. Some are heavy-hearted about the injustices that we perceive to be occurring all around us. Some are even worried about the possibility of another world war. I get these concerns, and I have shared them myself, doing my best to maintain a consciousness that's rooted in the internal reality of the one presence and the one power of God, but also dealing with the compelling appearances that are happening outside and around us. On top of all this, there's an underlying fear about our freedom being restricted. And that is specifically what I want to speak to you about this morning. And I'll start off with a story. It's about an old farmer and his old donkey. And one day the donkey is out treading in the field and unfortunately happens to misstep itself into an abandoned well, and it falls all the way to the bottom of the well. And when the farmer finally discovers the disposition of the donkey, there's nothing he can do. He thinks the donkey is dead for all practical purposes because it was such a deep well. But that being said, he wants to give the best send-off to his donkey that he possibly can, so he gives it the dignity of a burial in the well. He calls up his neighbors. They all come over with their shovels, and one by one, they begin throwing dirt into the hole where the deceased donkey is presumed to be. This goes on for an hour or two, when finally, much to the astonishment of everybody that was present, the donkey's head, eyes wide open, appears over the top of the well. And everyone is astonished. Number one, that the donkey is alive. Number two, that how in the world did it get up to the top of the well? What the donkey knew that no one else knew is that every time someone would throw a shovel of dirt over him in the empty well, he would step up on it. And shovel after shovel after shovel, up he came and up he came and up he came. And the reason I love this story so much is because we get dirt shoveled on us all the time in this world of time and space, do we not? Sometimes little shovels and sometimes god-awful big ones. What do we do with it? What do we do with adversity in our lives? What do we do when we look out at what's happening in the world and it makes us cringe and it makes our hearts hurt? We step up on that adversity and we allow it to be the pathway to our personal victory in life. The first proposal that I want to share with you this morning is this: worry, doubt, and even well-intentioned concern. Are you with me on this? Well-intentioned concern. I'm concerned about you, but my intentions are good. Doesn't matter. Doubt, worry, and even well-intentioned concerns are always opportunities for us to discover greater peace, greater love, and greater joy. And any negative emotion that you'll ever experience is always going to be a call from on high for you to discover freedom, true freedom, inside of yourself. In the book of John, we read these words from Jesus. He said to the Jews who had believed in him, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." How many of you would like to be set free this morning? Know the truth. Now, I'm going to share with you my belief, my understanding of the truth, but I don't expect you to accept it carte blanche, take it or leave it. I do want to encourage you to discover and be able to clearly articulate what you believe this truth that Jesus is talking about really is. Personally, I believe that the truth is that everything, just take this in for a minute, that everything you or I could ever need is already within us right now. There's no search required. There's no price to be paid. We were born this way. We're God-made with all the wholeness, all the abundance, all the love, joy, and yes, freedom that we could possibly desire. In fact, I think that's the only place where true freedom actually exists. In that inner space, nothing can ever hold you in bondage, my friends. It's impossible. There's only one thing holding you in bondage. Thank you. She's pointing to herself. Yeah, we are our own imprisoners, and we are our own wardens. We're doing this to ourselves. If you're searching for freedom outside of you, in the world of time and space, I believe your search will be endless. Because after years and years and years and years and years and years and years, yes, there's been a lot of them that I've been walking around on the planet, I have found it isn't there. I'm not sure I've completely abandoned the search. Sometimes I still look for things I think I need outside of me, but I believe more and more every day that it's inside of me. True freedom is, I said previously, a divine birthright. It's an inner liberation that transcends any and all external circumstances. When you're in that state of inner true freedom, whatever is going on in the world will not shake you or bother you. Ergo, you will not lose your personal sense of peace. And ergo, you will be able to make a peaceful contribution to the recklessness that seems to be going on out here. Where do you think all this recklessness is coming from? It's coming from the collective consciousness of you, me, and everybody on the planet. And it will never be purified until we change our minds, until we change our hearts. This is a freedom that is not bound by fear or ego or dogma or guilt or social conditioning. It releases desires, possessions, status, all of this. And I stand before you, admittedly, one who has sought all of these things for the majority of my life. And maybe it's just because I'm technically retired these days. I don't want to spend any more time there at all. I don't want to be out there in that fruitless search when I've been studying this teaching of unity all my life. I know where the truth is, and I know where real freedom is. Real freedom, I believe, true freedom, is also the experience of love and compassion and care and concern in the most positive sense of all of those words for myself and for all others. Jesus told us to be the light of the world, and I think that's exactly what he meant. So I believe the truth that Jesus was speaking of was the realization that everything we need is already within us, has already been given to us. I'll throw out another proposal. This one is a little more challenging for me even. I have to propose it to myself several times before I can stand up here and propose it to you. True freedom is a choice. It's a choice that we're making in every moment of our eternal lives. If we're not at peace, if we're not experiencing a sense of liberation and freedom, it's only because we have made up our minds to experience something else. You might say to yourself, well, surely I can't just choose freedom, not until I do enough work, not until I prove myself worthy, not until I overcome my countless faults and frailties, not until I accept a Savior outside of myself who can save me, not even until the government approves and endorses of my God-given identity. And don't hold your breath on that one. It's not likely to happen anytime soon. H. Emily Cady, one of the great contributing minds and authors in the Unity movement, wrote a book called Lessons in Truth. I know a lot of you are surely familiar with that because it is Unity's basic textbook. The first chapter of that book starts with the words, bondage or liberty? Which? ? Bondage or liberty? Now, to me, what that means is materiality or spirituality, material living or spiritual living. And believe it or not, again, I think it's always a choice, but we have to become very mindful, knowing that when we're feeling down and out and trodden on and ticked off, or other words I will not share from this platform this morning, we have the ability to change our minds about what we're experiencing. We have the ability. We are our own liberators, my friends, from the imprisonment of the world of time and space to the freedom, the true freedom of the world of spirituality. Going back to the words of Jesus, he was a very wise fellow. Did you realize that? And you don't have to do a lot of work if you really want to understand what the guy told us so many years ago, because it's all wrapped up, as I've shared with you before, in the Sermon on the Mount. If you can read that much of the Bible, you will have encapsulated all of the essential teachings, I believe, of Jesus. He says this in Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. You can't serve two masters. You can't come here on Unity Village Chapel and listen to messages and be inspired by music and combine in your community, coming together with everybody and really feeling that spiritual high, and then go out and give all your attention to the world of materiality. Because where your attention goes, your energy flows and your experience follows. I believe that we can experience true freedom by disassociating from the bondage of the world outside of us perceived through our five senses. That we can experience true freedom by associating completely with the liberty and the justice of the domain of spirit that is within us. In Unity, we would say the first is ego and the latter is Christ. Another proposal for you. Everything is coming to us from our most benevolent, loving Creator for but one reason, and that is to offer us true and eternal freedom. Everything that's happening gives us that opportunity. We are invited to free ourselves from what? Well, first of all, I say again, free ourselves from an identity that we have imagined ourselves to be. And imagination can become very, very real if we invest it with our faith and we invest it with our belief. So first of all, freedom from this figment of our imagination that we are not, that we have made up. And then freedom from the imagined world that the imagined idea of ourselves has made up. Are you with me on this? In other words, your identity, whether it's true or imagined, is going to project whatever experience you have invested yourself in. The spiritual teacher Ascendor says this: we are all lost in our own imagination. Now, imagination it's one of the 12 powers in Unity. It can be a beautiful tool for us to employ. But when you're worried, you're utilizing imagination for the wrong purpose. And imagination will work either way. So he's saying, find yourself by freeing yourself from the illusion of what you have perceived yourself to be. We've sought to exchange our divine identity for a bogus imitation of who we really are. And if you've heard me speak before, I've always utilized the terms authentic nature to describe the Christ nature and inauthentic nature to describe the egoic nature. But I am engaged in this process too. I'm trying to follow in the footsteps of our co-founders in the Unity Movement, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And they did much more than found a teaching. They courageously made themselves into pioneers who carved out their own unique spiritual formula and path in life. I'm trying to do the same thing. So when I get new revelation, I'm going with that new revelation. And I'm sharing it with you this morning. I'm not using the inauthentic nature anymore. I'm still using authentic nature, but that could change too. These have to be words that work for you. They can't be given to you by somebody else. They have to be words that work for you. So now it's still authentic nature for the nature from which God has created us, but I'm calling the other not inauthentic. I'm calling it imagined, your imagined self, what you've believed yourself to be, what you've imagined yourself to be. And that imagined self, as I say, makes up a fictional identity, which then creates a fictional experience in life. And its mechanics are thoughts and feelings and concepts and beliefs and form and matter. It seems real only because we have believed that it's real. We've invested a sense of reality into it. It requires a lot of, if you haven't noticed, it requires a lot of personal control to keep this imagined identity and imagined experience of life intact. A lot of energy goes into that. And if you haven't noticed, I certainly have more and more over the years. I'm not in control of nearly as much as I believed myself to be. But that's also kind of frightening, but also extremely liberating, I believe. Your authentic nature, your Christ nature, your true identity as a child of God that manifests in the same fashion the kingdom of God, because you've invested yourself in the truth of who you are. Now you're going to have a true, real experience of life, spiritually real. And its mechanics are quite different from the mechanics of the imagined self. Its mechanics are silence, stillness, beingness, trust, inner peace, and true freedom. It becomes real as we believe in its reality. So how do we make the move from this imagined self to an authentic self? First of all, we look at the practice of silence. And in silence, we are able to build a solid relationship with our authenticity, a solid relationship with the presence of God that indwells us. My good friend and former co-worker here at Unity Village for many years, Jim Rosemergy, refers to this as friends of God. To become a friend of God. Now, how many of you have had a friend in your life, and the only time they ever reached out to you was when they needed something? Oh, who's calling? I don't even want to answer the phone. Well, I don't think God refuses any calls. But I do think it's often the case that we only go to God when we need something. We only go to God when we're dwelling in fear. Instead of just hanging out with a person because you love them and you want to be in their presence. Hanging out with the presence of God within you because you love that presence and you want to be further united with it. Next is asking for help. Going back to the book of Matthew, words of Jesus. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. This is important because even the greatness and grandness of the universe can't work through you if you don't open the door, if you don't let it in. So this asking is an invitation to be inspired by the presence of God, by the Holy Spirit, whatever you choose to call it, that is within you, to say nay to the master that has called you to serve time and space and materiality all these years, and say yay to the master that wants to offer you unconditional love, peace, joy, and freedom. So ask and realize that there is an incredible level of support beyond your imagination. An incredible level of support available to you. It's not easy to turn your back on the world of time and space and the commotion and the clamor. I know that. We need help, but we have that help within us through our own authenticity. Ask that this authenticity, this presence of God be revealed in you, and then in silence, just take a look at anything that you might be holding on to a little too tightly. It could be control, it could be judgment, it could be worry. And say inwardly, I let this go. I give this over to the hands of something greater than myself. Or to quote the most popular lesson in Daily Word magazine, Unity's international daily publication, let go, let God. Anytime that shows up in Daily Word magazine, people just love it. I wonder why. Because we've all been running around trying to personally control everything out here. And it's exhausting. And when you say let go, let God, it's just like, oh, wow, thank you, Jesus. I can let go. You can let go. We can trust something that is higher and greater than anything we've known before. Meister Eckhart, the German theologian, says, let go that you may be. Be what? Be what God created you. Unveil the unconscious. And I put this in three aspects. The unconscious, that which dwells within us, that is producing the reality, the experience of reality that we're having, is the shadow of shame, the gift of guilt, and the falsity of fear. Now, I'd like to stand up here and tell you that after all these years of study and being involved in Unity, I have no shame. I have no guilt. I have no fear. But that's malarkey. What I can tell you is that the shadow of shame is a gift, the gift of guilt is a blessing, and the falsity of fear is an invitation to move beyond it. Adyashanti, the spiritual author, and I had a love-hate relationship with these words when I first read them in one of his books. I didn't want to accept this, but I want to accept it this morning, today. Make no mistake about it. Enlightenment is a destructive process. Now, even as I share that with you, I'm going to say, I prefer the word refining over destructive. Destructive's a little too intense for me. So I'm going to say, forgive me, Adyashanti. Make no mistake about it, enlightenment is a refining process. It has nothing to do with becoming better or happier. Enlightenment is the crumbling away of untruth. It's seeing through the facade of pretense. It's the complete eradication of everything we once imagined to be true. So this is not for the faint-hearted. In other words, it's the Kmart Blue Light Special. Does anybody remember Kmart? The everything must go sale. Everything must go. All of this attention, all of this preoccupation, all of this investment in stuff that's simply not true. And then as we do that, face the dimension of the shadow or the dimension of our imagined self and realize that it is forgiving. See, for me, the true meaning of forgiveness is to give something up. To give these false illusions, these false ideas and beliefs up. Just hand them over. Say, God, I've had enough. I don't want to play this game anymore. I want to remember who I am, and I want to bring it authentically into my day-to-day expression. So you don't run away from that which you fear. You look it squarely in the eye, knowing the presence of God is right behind you, before you, beside you, and within you, so that you are not facing it alone, you are facing it together. And right now, this is very important in our country, on this planet right now, I believe with all my heart. Very important. It takes minds and hearts and souls just like you. I said when we first sat down this morning, you're not here by accident. All of your life, you've been preparing to step into the role of a spiritual pioneer, to be able to make a positive, practical difference in a wrecked up world of time and space. It doesn't have to remain that way. The projection can change as we change our minds. My final proposal for you this morning is that our lives, whether we like it or not, are being lived. And while most of us believe we've been controlling and living and managing our lives, it's only been a figment of our imagination, right along with the false idea that we've accepted about who we are. God has always been living your life. God has always been living my life, and God is forever living the life of all humanity. Can we simply let it be? Or to follow the admonition from A Course in Miracles, can we say to ourselves, I give my life to God to guide today. I give your life to God to guide today. I give our lives to God to guide today. And also from A Course in Miracles. Hey, you want to celebrate freedom? Take this in with me. I am not a victim of the world I see. I am not a victim of the world I see. Can you say that with me? I am not a victim of the world I see. Let it sink in and say it with me again. I am not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of this. That was part of my imagined identity, and I'm deciding right now this morning to let all of that go. Friends, the land of the free has never existed outside of you. It has always, does now, and always will be most vital and alive right within your own soul. God bless you.